I cook for him. I clean up after him. How is that a waste of money? My sister-in-law snapped, her voice shaking with frustration. Hand over Grandpa's pension records and bank books. You've been using his money without his consent, haven't you? I demanded, my tone cutting through her excuses like a knife. The way you've treated him is beyond unacceptable. If we take this footage to the authorities, you'll be in serious trouble. My husband chimed in, his voice laced with warning. My sister-in-law and brother had no idea their lives were about to be turned upside down. My name is Harper. I'm 32 years old and work in an office. I've been married to my husband, Joseph, for 3 years. We live in his family home, though both of his parents have passed away. His father died before we got married, and his mother passed away last year. When I first moved in, Joseph's mother was already in poor health and had been hospitalized. She was granted temporary leave to attend our wedding, but shortly after, she passed away peacefully, surrounded by her loved ones. Being an only child, losing his mother left Joseph feeling completely alone. At the time, he fell into a deep sadness. I had already lost both of my parents, but I still had my brother, Gabriel, and our grandfather, who was still with us. Right now, my grandfather lives with Gabriel. My husband and I visit him occasionally, and Joseph enjoys chatting with him. Even though they aren't related by blood, my husband values my grandfather's wisdom and company. At 80-something, Grandpa is still physically strong, but his memory has started to fade. I worry about the possibility of dementia. Sometimes he drifts into old memories or brings up unrelated topics, which makes me anxious, but my husband finds these moments endearing. The other day, while talking to my husband, Grandpa suddenly became upset. Maybe he mistook him for Gabriel. You're mocking me and acting like a horrible grandson, he snapped. Joseph, staying calm, apologized as if he really were Gabriel. I'm sorry, Grandpa, he said gently, trying to ease his frustration. A moment later, Grandpa seemed to realize his mistake and looked embarrassed. Oh, you're Harper's husband, aren't you? I got confused, he admitted. Joseph continued the conversation as if nothing had happened, but I was unsettled by the way Grandpa had spoken about Gabriel. When I confronted my brother about it, he became defensive. You left me to take care of him, and now you're criticizing me? Gabriel shot back angrily. The truth is, we never forced him to look after Grandpa. After our parents died, he and his wife moved into our family home, where Grandpa was already living. It seemed like a mutual decision, especially since Gabriel and his wife, Oakland, appeared willing to care for him. Oakland, in particular, had always seemed warm and attentive when I visited. But Joseph had his doubts. Are you sure she's taking care of him properly? He asked me one day. His clothes are dirty, and there's dust all over his room. My husband is extremely observant, and he was convinced that Oakland was neglecting Grandpa. He had even caught her berating Gabriel during a family gathering. Make sure you tell them not to come during the holidays, she had snapped at him. I just want some peace and quiet. I had already sensed her two-faced nature the previous winter when Grandpa was hospitalized with a cold. One day, while visiting, I overheard her speaking when she didn't realize I was there. I wish he'd just hurry up and die already, she muttered under her breath. When she saw me, her face turned pale, and she immediately switched to a sweet tone, trying to change the subject, but I knew what I had heard. Despite my suspicions, I never voiced them openly. When we visited, we kept our thoughts to ourselves, knowing that in such a small house, anything we said would reach their ears. Then one day, Grandpa himself finally admitted the truth. That's when Joseph came up with an idea. What if we install a pet camera to monitor what's really going on? He suggested. At first, I hesitated. Spying on my own family felt wrong, but for Grandpa's sake, we discreetly set up the camera in his room. The footage confirmed our worst fears. Gabriel and Oakland had a 5-year-old son, Leon, and even he treated Grandpa horribly. The moment he got home from kindergarten, he would barge into the room and shout, "Hey, old man, still alive?" His disrespect was shocking. A child that young could only have learned such behavior from his parents. I wanted to confront him right away, but what I saw next was even worse. Oakland entered Grandpa's room, looking like a completely different person from the kind woman I thought I knew. She glared at him with a terrifying expression. "I told you to do your own laundry, didn't I? Why is it still not done?" she yelled. Grandpa had always told me that Oakland did his laundry, but now I realized she had been making him do it himself. He kept apologizing, his head bowed, but she continued berating him. "As punishment, you'll be doing everyone's laundry tomorrow," she declared, "and don't you dare mix yours with ours." Joseph, watching the footage with me, clenched his fists in anger. This is worse than I imagined. We need to get Grandpa out of there. Let's bring him to live with us. I was relieved to see my husband so outraged on Grandpa's behalf, but the cruelty didn't stop there. When dinner time came, Oakland brought Grandpa a meal, just a small bowl of rice and miso soup, and shoved it onto his table. Eat fast and bring the tray back yourself, she barked. I watched in horror as Grandpa ate alone in his room, excluded from the family. Tears welled up in my eyes. The next day, Joseph and I confronted Gabriel. We want to take Grandpa to live with us, I told him firmly. You've already said you don't want the responsibility. Gabriel looked conflicted, but before he could answer, Oakland stepped in. That's not happening, she said coldly. He stays here. This is his home. I couldn't understand why she insisted on keeping him when she clearly saw him as a burden, until Grandpa revealed the real reason. I can't leave, he murmured. They took my pension book and bank records. I don't have any money. Everything clicked into place. Oakland didn't care about Grandpa, she cared about his pension. I turned to her, my anger boiling over. Give back his bank book and pension records, I demanded. You've been taking his money, haven't you? For the first time, she dropped the fake kindness and glared at me with pure hatred. I feed him and clean up after him, she hissed. That's not stealing. But I wasn't going to back down. Grandpa deserved better, and I was going to make sure he got it. So, I'm just using his pension for household expenses. That's not stealing. It's unfair of you to accuse me of that, Oakland protested, her voice laced with indignation. My husband didn't let her words slide. He pulled out his phone, revealing the secretly recorded footage from my grandfather's room, and spoke in a firm tone. The way you've been treating him is disgraceful. If we take this video to the authorities or the police, you'll be in serious trouble, he warned. Oakland's defiance wavered instantly. The threat clearly rattled her, and she fell silent. Gabriel, who had always been under her influence, could no longer argue in the face of undeniable proof. With no other choice, he reluctantly agreed to let us take our grandfather with us. As we packed up Grandpa's things, Oakland, still bitter about losing control over his pension, made a snide remark. Poor Grandpa, now Harper's going to take all his money instead. I shot back without hesitation. So you're admitting you've been using his pension all this time? In that case, you should return every cent to him. Realizing she had exposed herself, Oakland clamped her mouth shut and stormed off. Meanwhile, my image-conscious brother desperately pleaded with my husband to delete the video. I had already decided to erase it. Grandpa's dignity mattered more than revenge. Turning to my grandfather, I gently urged, Grandpa, let's move in with us. You don't have to stay here anymore. Tears welled up in his eyes. Thank you, he whispered. Once we retrieved his pension book and bank records, Grandpa officially moved in with us. From the moment he arrived, he seemed like a new person. His expression brightened, and his mind became clearer. His forgetfulness, which had worried me before, noticeably faded. Back at Gabriel's house, he had barely gone outside, but now, every morning, he took walks, enjoying the fresh air and his newfound freedom. Strangely enough, ever since Grandpa came to live with us, good things kept happening. My husband received a promotion at work, and I won a small lottery prize, not a fortune, just $100, but it still felt like a sign of positive change. Then came an even bigger surprise. Grandpa's long-lost brother, Mike, had passed away. Though they hadn't spoken in over 50 years, Grandpa was his only surviving relative, making him the sole heir to Mike's massive fortune. Mike had built a successful business but had no wife or children, so he left behind a staggering $2 million inheritance. While Grandpa remained composed about it, I couldn't help but dream about all the things we could do, trips, shopping, maybe even a new house. My husband, noticing my excitement, gave me a look. It's not our money, he reminded me. This is your grandfather's inheritance. He gets to decide what to do with it. His words brought me back down to reality, but nothing could have prepared me for Grandpa's decision. I'm going to donate it, he announced calmly. He explained that Mike had always wanted to donate his wealth but never left a will. Since Grandpa had inherited everything, he felt it was right to fulfill his brother's wishes. He decided to give the entire sum to the local government, and the generous act quickly became a hot topic in town. Even though Grandpa had hoped to make the donation quietly, the media caught wind of it. A public ceremony was arranged, and reporters would be attending. Grandpa, and used to such attention, grew nervous about the event. On the day of the ceremony, my husband and I had to work, so we couldn't be there, but we encouraged Grandpa before leaving the house. Later, During my lunch break, I turned on the local news. The live broadcast showed my grandfather standing stiffly on stage, visibly uncomfortable but determined. He was supposed to simply hand over the donation and conclude the event, but suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The crowd stirred, and then a familiar voice screeched through the hall. "That money belongs to me." I froze. The camera caught a glimpse of two figures rushing onto the stage, Gabriel and Oakland. Before I could see more, the broadcast was abruptly cut off. My coworker, watching with me, chuckled, "Wow, what a scene, that was a disaster for the news station." But I couldn't laugh. A sinking feeling grew in my stomach. How had they even known about the inheritance? I spent the rest of my shift distracted, eager to get home and find out what happened. When I finally arrived, Grandpa greeted me with a cheerful smile, as if nothing unusual had occurred. "Grandpa," I said urgently, "did Gabriel and Oakland show up at the donation ceremony today?" He blinked in surprise. "Yeah, how did you know?" "They barged in and caused a huge commotion, screaming about the money. Security had to drag them out." He chuckled as if it was all a minor inconvenience. Hearing him say it so casually, I couldn't help but laugh, too. I figured being forcibly removed by security would be enough humiliation to make them back off. But when my husband got home, his expression was serious. "You need to see this," he said, handing me his phone. Online, images from the ceremony had gone viral, though their faces were blurred. The headlines were brutal. "Greedy grandchildren try to stop grandfather's generous donation." Since Grandpa's name was public, people quickly figured out who the culprits were. Within hours, Gabriel and Oakland's faces, home address, and even workplace details were exposed. The internet had torn them apart. It turned out that a lawyer had initially gone to their home, still thinking Grandpa lived there. He hadn't mentioned the inheritance, but once the media started covering the donation, Gabriel put the pieces together, and Oakland saw an opportunity. They had stormed the ceremony in a last-ditch effort to claim the money, only to become infamous for their greed. Now, their entire lives were crumbling. Gabriel, already disliked at work, faced immense ridicule and soon quit. Their son's kindergarten parents shunned them, forcing Oakland to withdraw him. They tried to hide at her parents' house, but even that location was discovered. Eventually, Gabriel called me in desperation. "Please, Harper," he pleaded, "you have to help us." But I felt no sympathy. "You did this to yourself," I told him coldly. "If you had treated Grandpa with kindness from the start, none of this would have happened." I ended the call, and that was the last I heard from him. Shortly after, Gabriel and Oakland divorced. Most of the money from selling their house went to child support. Oakland struggled to find work, her face was now too well known, and she had no qualifications. She ended up living in hiding at her parents' house, unable to show her face in public. Meanwhile, our lives only got better. With the inheritance drama behind us, I found out I was pregnant. Grandpa and my husband were overjoyed, and Grandpa became more determined than ever to stay active and healthy, taking walks every day in preparation for meeting his great-grandchild. One evening, my husband grinned and said, "Ever since Grandpa moved in, only good things have happened. Maybe he's our good luck charm." I laughed. "You might be right." And just like that, our family's new chapter began, one filled with happiness, peace, and a newfound appreciation for the people who truly mattered. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Stay tuned.